Hello and welcome to episode number 16 of the Wise Guys podcast. My name is John Tortorelli with my two co-hosts, Brennan Capizzello and Justin Ray. Today we have a lot of fun stuff to talk about, some stuff that's going to be debatable, some stuff that's going to be frustrating to still discuss, and also a little bit of opinionated pieces with the NBA offseason, which is starting to certainly dry down at this point in early August. It's probably the quietest part of the NBA timeline outside of training camp season, so there's not really a whole lot going on unless it's Timberwolves general manager getting fired a few weeks before training camp, which is neither here nor there. Today we're starting off with our KD ultimatum, then we're going to kick off right after that with our favorite off seasons, trending toward our top 10 shooting guard lists of all time. That'll be a fun debate. Right, Bren?
Ready.
And then, of course, we'll cap it all off with some NBA check it up. So starting off a few days ago, Kevin Durant had a meeting with Joseph Tsai, the Nets owner. And to put it simply, he said, "You're picking me or the GM and the head coach, but you're not getting both." Now, I want to remind people, in 2021, Kevin Durant was signing a 4-year contract extension at 32 years old. And within 1 year, he is saying, "I am done at this place. To hell with the coach. I don't like the GM. And if I'm staying, you have to clear this entire management group and the coaching staff again." So, Justin, you're a New Yorker through and through. And I'm not even from New York. I'm from New Jersey. And this just pisses me off. I want to know your take because I have a lot to say. But I feel like for you, you're going to be a lot more, even though you're a Knicks fan, I get that. This dude is sending such a bad message to the city.
You're right on that note, but I'll be honest with you. I guess maybe I'm gonna attack this from a different angle. Uh, James Harden just continues to look like he might have made the right decision to get out of Brooklyn. Like, we knocked him a ton, but this is such a disaster what's going on, and I've said this in prior episodes that we went from looking at this team as a constant title contender, and now it's just like, yo, what the hell happened to you? This team is just collapsing right now. But I think the simple answer to this is, wouldn't Brooklyn be kind of crazy to let go of the guy that instantly puts them in title contention and holding on to a coach that a first year head coach with not much experience? How many years does Nash have? Not 1 year. My bad. That's two.
Well, he had no experience prior to the Nets job, so it
Yeah.
feels like he's a
Yeah.
first-year head
So,
coach.
you're going to keep a coach with mostly no experience over a guy that's going to put you in title contention. While I hate the fact that this is such a players' league and players control literally everything, it's almost toxic to a point. And I know the owners are definitely going to have a say when it comes to the new, if I'm not mistaken, CBA agreement, right? Um, it it's definitely going to be very interesting, but it's ugly, man. Brooklyn right now is very ugly. You'll never it's I don't even have too much to say because like I said, there's not too many positives that could come out of this. This was a team that was, like I said, in title contention, and now we're looking at it like, wow, what do we have left? If you get rid of KD, you already gave up all your draft picks for James Harden, and now Kyrie doesn't want to be there, KD doesn't want to be there. You look like every single move that you made has turned back and fired back on you.
So
The
Justin,
saying, everything you touch turns to gold. Definitely didn't happen here.
so what's your take on what do you think is going to happen? So the report is, trade me or fire the head coach and GM. What do you think, Joe? What's his last name? Sai.
Sigh.
What do you think Joe Sai does?
I think he fires the head coach, fires Nash, fires Marks. You got to keep the guy. Like, nothing's gonna change. This is always gonna be a players' league. It seems like something dramatically has to change come the new CBA agreement, but he's gonna stay in the fold. If your goal right now is win now, what is trading Kevin Durant gonna do for you?
So I've got two questions for you guys. Now, Joseph Tsai took to Twitter at Joseph Tsai 1999. "Our front office and coaching staff have my support. We will make decisions in the best interest of the Brooklyn Nets. Now, you said Kevin Durant makes the Nets an immediate contender, but I don't agree with you. And the reason why I say that is there are players in the NBA that are younger than KD. And if you just give Luka a few role players, he's going to get you 45 to 50 wins, no questions asked. He's durable. But Kevin Durant's shown us, hey, look, I think his game is going to age well, but he can't stay on the court when he's asked to do everything. And that in and of itself doesn't push the Nets to a top 4 or 5 seed. And hey, look, the fact of the matter is, you look at the numbers, how many 6 and 7 seeds are going to the NBA Finals? Almost none.
But my point really isn't okay. I get what you mean. Kevin Durant makes them a contender in the sense that people want to play with Kevin Durant. So my point basically is I'm not saying with what Brooklyn has right now, they're a title contender, but having Kevin Durant in the fold makes this a place that people want to go to. You have that star player, people want to be around that. It's Kevin Durant, top 5 player in the league. That's an attraction in itself. It's the Big Apple. That's another attraction. That's what makes this team a title contender. Once you pull KD, much like the Knicks, you start to see a team with that looks like they have no direction. You know, nobody's
Yeah.
going to want to play there when KD's out.
Uh,
The only appeal would be that it's New York City and James Dolan isn't the owner. That's it.
that is a good. That's a plus. John, do you want to?
Now, my second question.
Okay, your second.
You can go first, though.
No. Hit the second question.
I look at Joseph Tsai's perspective of this entire situation. He gave Kevin Durant a redshirt year rightfully because he should have gotten one. The first year at the team, KD does a miraculous job taking them to the Bucks to 7 games, the eventual champions. When look, we forget the number 2 scorer on those teams were Blake Griffin and Bruce Brown, and Kyrie and James Harden went down. And Kevin Durant had a terrific Game 7, and the only reason why they lost is because in overtime, Harden was running on basically nothing, and Kevin Durant was gassed. We saw at the very end of the game where he was just settling for tough jumper after tough jumper over PJ Tucker. But then in 2022, he gets injured, and he was gassed again in the playoffs. We saw against that Boston team, they play physical, they rough you up. He just didn't have the wherewithal to keep up with them. And they were in almost every single game in that series too, but in the crunch time, he wasn't there. And so for Joseph Tsai, he watches that series. You won 0 games when every other team in the postseason won at least 1. Jokic had a horrible match against the Warriors. He almost got 2 games. And he had much worse support. Jokic didn't have an all-star playing alongside him. I think basketball fans forget Jokic has never played with an all-star. Kevin Durant had Kyrie Irving, who we know for a variety of reasons, it's a wide variety, is not always reliable, especially in the postseason post-2016. So if I'm Joseph Tsai, and people are going to call me crazy for this, but I'm not giving up one of the best GMs in basketball in Sean Marks, a guy who has took this organization out of a fire and led it to the situation for a player Kevin Durant who's 33 years old. He's closer to the end of the prime than he is to the beginning of it. And most importantly, he can't even win you a damn playoff game. Like, think about how crazy that is. That we're going to take the guy who, we forget, he and Kyrie Irving got Kenny Atkinson fired. Kevin had played 0 games for Atkinson. Not even 1. And he won him out. And this, Steve Nash, was him and Kyrie's decision. They wanted Nash. The whole thing is, for these stars, they want to have power. And by getting to Steve Nash, a former player who players like, they feel like they're in control. And then they realized, oh wait, Nash doesn't have the experience and just overall the background to lead us and elevate us the way a Steve Kerr or a Tyronn Lue can. And now you want him fired again. New coach? Who's this new coach going to be? Is it going to be one of his buddies from DC? Like, I don't get what the replacement is. Because the best one on the market is Mike D'Antoni, Frank Vogel, who just got ran out of Los Angeles. For me, if you take Kevin Durant, you're just getting into this rat race where you're making one bad decision after another because of a flawed system that gives players way too much power. And quite frankly, Kevin Durant's a great basketball player, but he's shown this is not LeBron James. Even LeBron, you don't want as your GM. And so there is no way I'm giving him this much power to basically drive my team into the ground when I've already invested all my draft picks into building a squad around him, and that already failed. And I'm going to give him another go around? The hell with that. I'm sending him off to Phoenix for a bunch of draft picks. Mikal Bridges can't get eaten. Maybe New Orleans I'm calling up every single day, but there's just no way I'm choosing Kevin Durant over Sean Marks if I'm Joseph Tsai.
So what I'll say is, first I do want to say, because both of you guys made the point that it's a player-driven league, and that's true, to an excessive extent. But I do want to say that I don't want to see the pendulum flip completely the other way, where it's basically like the NFL. There's a happy medium in there somewhere where the players can have control and the owners can also have control. Like there is that happy medium and they have to find it together. That's what negotiations are all about. It's meeting in the middle. Because one guy's gonna there's the classic rule of one guy's gonna the you as the person coming into the meeting, you want to ask for the most money and they're gonna try and get you for the cheapest money. So I want to have that happy medium where it's not flipped and it's like the NFL and now there's like not that much player movement and the owner and it's basically like, I don't want to say it, but you guys know what I mean. Go see Houston Texans owner, I guess, back a couple 5 or 6 years ago, his comments about that stuff. Disgraceful. But to Kevin Durant and Joe Tsai's meeting and the reports on it. For me, it's like at this point, there's no way you can, as the owner, be like, screw that. I'm just gonna have everybody come back together because the reports are out now. The connection between Steve Nash and KD is broken. The bridge between Kyrie and Steve Nash has been broken and burned. So there's no going back to like basically like some people were saying like Kevin Durant's just going to come back and Steve Nash is going to be there and so is Sean Marks. Now it's basically like you have to decide, Joe Tsai. Is it Sean Marks and Steve Nash or is it Kevin Durant? And at this point, I think Kevin Durant's got to go. And for some points that John hit on, I mean, Sean Marks has been a really, really good GM for the Brooklyn Nets. Steve Nash is probably going to be on his way out, if not by the end of the year, then midway through the next year. I mean, he's not a long-term head coach. Let's be honest. But yeah, the experiment, it's over in Brooklyn. It failed like I thought it was because this was a championship or bust. They didn't win a championship. They never even got to a championship. So it's a bust. Like I said, when they first signed together, and even I reiterated it on Twitter when James Harden joined, this is not a dynamic duo and a big three that is going to lead to championships or just one championship because there's no leader. James Harden's a choke artist. And like I said, KD can't. He is. The numbers don't lie on that one. They don't, and neither do the footage. When you watch the games, Kevin Durant's not a leader, and neither is Kyrie. And then when you have Steve Nash in there, who's an inexperienced head coach, so there's where that's why when we saw them in Boston this year, one main reason they got swept is because they were playing iso ball basically, which KD said he wanted to get away from when he was in OKC with Russell Westbrook because it basically just trickled down to it's iso game. It's Westbrook your turn, now it's KD's turn. And then he wanted to go to Golden State because he loved the style of basketball and he loved playing in that type of style of basketball, ball movement, getting shooters open, setting picks, all that stuff. Then he goes to Brooklyn and they've just been it's iso ball. It's Kyrie, your turn. Okay, now it's my turn, and they could never figure it out. Like it's because it's perfect example. Miami Heat big three, and not to exclude Chris Bosh because I think he gets a lot of hate, and I love Chris Bosh, but not to exclude him. I'm going to focus on LeBron, and I know, but I'm going to focus on LeBron.
Chris Bosh, you rewatched that 2014 or 2013, excuse me,
Yeah,
NBA championship. People, I don't want to cut you off. People forget how many giant plays he made down the stretch outside of that rebound and kick out to Ray Allen.
Yeah. So I'm going to focus on just the dynamic duo of LeBron and Wade. The first year we know what happened. I don't have to get into it. But one of the main reasons is well, the main reason is because LeBron didn't show up in against Dallas. But underlying was that Wade and Braun didn't figure out how to do it. Like, is it my team or is it your team? Is it my go or your go? Who's gonna close this time? Who's gonna do this? And eventually, and that's why Dwyane Wade is one of the most unselfish superstars of all time, and why he gets every ounce of respect from every player, fan, owner, coach, GM, whatever you want to say. Is that he stepped back, and even though 305 was his city and Miami Heat was him, he is Wade County. He stepped back and said, Braun, this is your team now. You're the leader. Take us there. He had to step back and say, take us. And there's no who's going to do that. Kyrie's not doing that. KD's not doing that. So, and that's what I mean when it narrows down to leadership. Where is it? There's none. So,
this really all comes down to one thing. KD just can't take the heat.
No, he can't.
He just can't. And
Never
you know
could.
what, man? And I'm a big fan of watching him on the court, but there's no player in the NBA. I mean, I guess you could say LeBron, but I make a lot of excuses for LeBron. But KD's move to Golden State was still is and always will be the weakest move in NBA history, and his NBA titles will forever be debated as like
There's going to be an asterisk forever.
Always, and you know, and it's
I'll
a shame.
debate that till I'm blue in the face.
I'm with you. No matter, and you know what? I've gotten knocked for that because he played very well in those NBA finals. So you can't knock his performance
Well,
there.
there's reasons behind that, though. When you're playing with two of the greatest three-point shooters of all time and they can't double or look at all the numbers, all the shooting percentage for all those guys shot up like insanely high because they're all getting nice open shots. It's insane, and the ball movement, the style of play they play.
No, it's true. You know, the thing is, when you play with 3 Hall of Famers probably on your team outside of yourself,
or
dude,
if you count Draymond,
that's what I'm saying.
Setting a lot of those up.
There's 3 other Hall of Famers aside from himself.
Oh yeah. I get what you're saying.
So I'm sorry. I love KD and I watch it. I love watching him on the court. But man, you can't take the heat. Like this was made for you in Brooklyn, man. You made this yourself and you threw it out. You bought the groceries and didn't use them. You just threw them in the trash.
He said that everybody said when I don't know if he said this or there was reports on it or whatever, but he wanted one of the main reasons he left Golden State is because he understood it was never going to be his team and it was always going to be Curry's team. And he was never going to get the love that Curry got. And he wanted to basically prove everybody wrong that he could win a championship on his own.
You know what?
Yeah.
This Knick fan is one happy SOB right now, man.
Should be.
Oh, man.
I mean, 100%. I mean, it would have fizzled out too. It might have even been worse because of, the ownership that you got. It's just, listen, man, KD, yeah, he performed insanely well in those finals. I mean, let's remember the second one, it was a complete mismatch. I mean, there was no Kyrie. He had gone to Boston. Kevin Love was not Kevin Love of the Timberwolves. It was a complete and utter mismatch. It was basically Braun by himself.
Did you not see J.R. Smith dribbling the wrong way as the team was down by 1 point?
Yeah, no, but that was the game one. That was their best chance of winning a game.
Yeah,
that was their only chance of winning the game because I think the other three games were blowouts. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, LeBron broke his hand after game one. I'm pretty sure he punched something in the locker room.
Yeah, he punched something. Yeah, okay, yes, I do remember that. Listen, KD's experiments. I look back at the OKC days, and it ended up in failures. And you can blame Russell Westbrook all you want. I'm there with you. Russell had a lot to do with that, but you can go look at KD's numbers, especially in that 3-1 lead they blew. He didn't show up either in I believe it was game 6 and 7. And in Golden State, yeah, he played insanely well, but again, like I said, when you got 3 other Hall of Famers, like John likes to say, Draymond, one of the greatest playmakers of all time, Steph Curry, the greatest shooter of all time, Klay Thompson, inarguably a top 5 3-point shooter of all time, the off-ball movement, the style of play they play, Like it's just it. Of course, you're going to perform well. You're Kevin freaking Durant, talent wise, you're top 5. Like, of course, you're going to play insanely well. But now look what you did in Brooklyn. What'd you do? First year, you sat out respectively because you tore your Achilles, so you had to. Came back, came within basically a toenail of going to the NBA Finals, and you can debate that all you want. But what happened happened. You lost. You ran out of gas in the final in the overtime, like John said. And if LeBron, I swear to God, if LeBron would have done that, what would have been the narrative? Oh, LeBron, you should never have gassed out. But Kevin Durant somehow got an excuse. What? Are you kidding me right now? No, because if you're gonna put KD up on that pedestal, if people are gonna say KD's the best player on the planet, somebody who I listen to almost on a daily basis, Kip Bayless, who I find highly entertaining. I don't care really what anybody says. I just find him very entertaining. He he calls KD the best player on the planet. If LeBron gassed out in that overtime, and Shannon has got him on this, he would have ridiculed LeBron. Tore him apart. KD got a pass. No, buddy. If you're supposed to be on that level, then you're getting the same criticism. Like I said about the quarterbacks, if you're the leader of a basketball, football, whatever sport team, you get all the praise when you win and all the blame when you lose. It doesn't work. You don't get to skip one of those. No. What happened happened.
Yes, had a lot of points. On a side note, that may have been LeBron's greatest playoff game, or one of, if it's not the greatest, because there were a few very impressive fourth quarter runs. That game one versus the Warriors. And we're looking at Kevin Durant there. We'll call this an acronym TCAF. What that stands for is telepathy, continuity, accountability, it's a big one, and fun. Telepathy, because you have the best 3-and-D wing of all time, the best shooter of all time, Draymond freaking Green, a Hall of Fame coach, and a bench that was pretty consistent. The 2017 Warriors was the greatest team of all time. We're going to talk about this a lot more in a bit. And they had basically the same exact roster in 2018. Kevin Durant leaves to go to a place where accountability, is Kyrie accountable? No. Is there going to be telepathy between him and Kyrie? It's not the way it was with Klay, Draymond, Steph, and Kerr. Steve Nash and Steve Kerr, I mean, it's comparing me to like Bull. It's like there's a wide range on the spectrum there. And there was no pressure on those Warriors teams because there was only one team that could even compete with them in the NBA. Just one. I'm not talking about the Cavaliers, to be quite honest with you, though they actually initially were. There's maybe two. But this Nets team, it's always been uptight. You know, your shoulders are up. They're not down. There's always something to worry about because, as Justin says, anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Let me repeat that. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong with those Nets teams. You're talking before, Brandon, about, Harden, he's not going to be the right fit with those guys. Quite honestly, my biggest concern with that team was not necessarily that there was only one ball to go around, but the injuries. Kevin Durant's coming off a torn Achilles. James Harden, while he was an Iron Man in the NBA, you never knew when he was going to slow down because of the insane usage rates he had carried with him from Houston. We're going to talk about that in a bit. And Kyrie Irving's always been an injury-prone player. It's just the reality that you can't deny. So I worried if Kyrie's not available and Kevin Durant's only giving you 55 games, Harden's got the same exact stick as Houston. It's just him playing hero ball sometimes. And that's not going to help that dude stay durable. But like I said before, man, the GM is so important. And I think the reason OKC wasn't able to retain Durant wasn't because of Russell Westbrook. It was because Sam Presti. There was no offense supporting that star duo. And when we look at the offseason that Sean Marks had, look, it wasn't great. He overpaid for Royce O'Neal. He was not worth the first-round pick from Utah. Royce O'Neal was trash last year. The Jazz fell apart. Royce O'Neal is one of the 4 biggest reasons. He was not good last season. You get TJ Warren. Maybe he'll be a good scorer off the bench, but he hasn't played in 2 years. Overall, for this Nets team, they're in a mess. Ben Simmons, who knows? I mean, I'm tired of, in theory, I'm tired of what if. We don't know. He's coming off back surgery at 25. Look at how it's going for Michael Porter Jr. Now going to pay him $35 million a year. Look at Kyrie Irving in this 1-year deal. He can retire in a year for all we know. And Kevin Durant's not getting younger. But if there's any GM I trust to get myself out of this mess, and maybe the guy that, turned the worst trade in NBA history into the most fun team in basketball, D'Angelo Russell, Jared Allen, Karis LeVert, high value contracts, young players that had continuity, they kept the same team through injuries, accountability, they put in the work, they want to play with one another, and they made it work through injuries yet again, with Karis going down constantly and even D'Lo, and they're fun. And that to me is why, if I'm Joseph Tsai, I am choosing every single day Sean Marks, not even Steve Nash, just Sean Marks over Kevin Durant, because he is so much more important to this organization. And I wouldn't be surprised if New York turns in KD. Justin and Brent, would you guys disagree with that? I think New York should turn KD because I don't want this guy representing my team.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I was gonna say. I mean, I don't think Justin. Do you disagree with that? Like,
No, I agree that they should. Do I think that they would? No. I think
yeah,
KD's gonna stay.
I think he's gonna. All right, so because what I was gonna say is another report came out and saying that the Celtics, Raptors, and Heat still remain interested, and they're like the significant teams. And then there's a couple other reports about apparently the Pelicans still have interest. So if you go off those four teams, where do you think it's most likely going to end up?
Pelicans got to stay away. Get away. No. They've had a great offseason. Don't do it. Don't even think about trading Brandon Ingram for Kevin Durant. People are going to overreact. It's like trading for Aaron Rodgers in the NFL. You can't compare to sports like that. The fact of the matter is, if this guy can't win on his own, don't gut what you do have. The words I talked about before: continuity, accountable young players on good contracts that are fun. The fans love it. And if you're trying to be a more valuable franchise, you're trying to do the right thing long term, you're not trading a 24-year-old Brandon Ingram and stuff for Kevin. So, look, any of those franchises can. If I'm Toronto, I'm also not doing it. Dude, he's not winning me a championship. Kevin Durant will never win a championship again as a star in the NBA, as a 1 or 2 option, maybe in the tail end of his career. So
So what about Boston and my? For me as a Miami Heat fan, I don't want him. I didn't want him when Miami the report came out. I don't want him now. It it's just it'd be so hard for me as like I said, I think before we started recording, like I put quotation marks around KD hater. I don't have hate for anybody, but I just don't really like the moves that he's made over his career. So that's where I'm at. I don't want you on my team that I'm going to root for and be a diehard fan for. And now you're on my team. And then when are you going to freaking turncoat? Because we know Jimmy Butler don't take no crap.
It,
So how is that gonna? I don't want any of that. Like, and especially to what to give up to get him. Like, we'd have to give Bam, we'd have to give Lowry, we'd have to give Hero, we'd have to give Duncan. That's freaking everybody and picks. No, man, I'm out on that. For me, Boston, I don't see that happening either because I think that the Nets are going to just want too much and Boston's going to be like, "No, I'm not for that." So where I look at it, I say, "Who the hell is Kevin Durant playing for this season coming up?" I know Justin thinks it's the Nets. I don't see how. I mean, he comes from the camp that he thinks Marks and um, Nash are going to be out because Sai is going to side with KD. I don't see how that's going to happen. Also, a point I wanted to get into, and we can wrap it up soon, but around that point for Justin, there's another thing creeping around in the shadows a little bit that's not been talked about that much, but you kind of mentioned the CBA coming up. I firmly believe that the owners around are talking to each other and they're kind of hinting towards Joe Tsai to say, hold off. Don't give him what he wants. Because if you give him what he wants, then the players continue to win. And it's going to be harder for us to negotiate the contracts and stuff like that. So there might be whispers back, in the shadows of the, NBA going on. I just don't see how it's a rectifiable situation because I'm for getting rid of Steve Nash. I don't want anybody to lose their job, but he's not an NBA head coach. He's just not. So I'm fine with that. But Sean Marks has done a fine job. Like, there's no why the hell why what's the beef with Sean Marks? Why are you beefing with Sean Marks? I don't get it. I don't
Listen,
get it.
I'm with you guys. I think it is stupid. From the teams that you listed, uh, if there was one, I would say Boston because Boston would have to give up pretty much the least because of the caliber of a player they'd probably give up in that deal, which is Jalen Brown. You're not going to find that caliber of player in any of those trades that you would get. You wouldn't get something close to that from Toronto. You wouldn't get something close to that from just about anywhere. So, you got something on that?
You got a little more.
No, no, you got nothing.
I feel like with Jalen Brown, you have an opportunity to win multiple championships. With Kevin Durant, you're lucky to get one,
Mhm.
given his age and where he's at health wise. And look, if it's just straight up Jalen Brown and picks, okay. But if I'm giving up Marcus Smart along Jalen Brown, I'm not even thinking about it because the Celtics built a contender off of a switching style scheme that just is not going to be the same that Kevin Durant's there.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying that's the least that they'd have to get. If you're getting two players and picks rather than like the Suns would have to give up a king's ransom to get Kevin Durant. They'd have to give up a load of talent. Same in Miami. Um, but yeah, I really believe he will stay in Brooklyn. I just can't see them. Are you good? Do you want to be the GM that traded away a top five NBA player of all time potentially? Do you want to hang that on your banner?
Is
I
this
don't think so.
is this good business?
You know what? It's it's high risk, high reward,
Is it
If you
really high
if you
reward?
I think so. I think so because you're still in contention. You're still able to field a team
Dude,
that maybe contention is. I'm using it too loosely, but like I said, as long as you have Kevin Durant in the fold, you're an attraction. You're an attraction. You're gonna bring in a ton of money because of that man in there, man. The Barclays Center is going to be sold out every night with him there playing, even though he won't play 82 games. But they're going to get a lot of love, and not only that, they'll be pushing for a top 5 seed. They will draw some superstar talent in as well. They already got Kyrie. They had James Harden, so that's just an example. Now we got Ben Simmons. Who's next? As long as KD's in the fold, there will be a who's next. Somebody else will be coming in there soon. I think you just hold on to him, man. Just hold on, because what are you gonna get? What good are you gonna get from trading him besides okay, a fresh start? Sure, that may feel good, but you're gonna really trade that. And Brandon, you walked off, but I said it. Do you want to be the GM that trades a top 5 player of all time? Do you want to hang that on your banner and then when
Oh,
your
not all
franchise,
time. Not all time.
he's one of the
he's top
greatest players of
15.
all time.
It's not top 5.
Fine, my bad, top 10.
Hey, but
No, no, no.
Danny
That's
Ainge
for another day. That's for another day. But
Danny Ainge traded a top 20 player in Garnett plus Paul Pierce, and it was maybe the greatest trade outside of Bill Russell.
okay, but realistically, the production that Paul Pierce and KG were putting up at that point in the time in their career does not equate to what Kevin Durant can do at this very moment.
Yeah, not at
So
all.
that's what I'm saying. You're trading an MVP right here, and if you're going to do that, you best believe get something worthy in return, man, because that's a massive loss.
For me at this point, I mean, I don't know if you have any more to say, John. I, this guy's just making us talk in circles, to be honest with you, because I mean, the trades out there, there's not that many. I mean, we all see what we just gotta honestly just wait back and see because we have no idea what's gonna happen.
I agree. I feel like you just have to separate Kevin Durant, the player, and Kevin Durant, the leader. He is not a number one. Yeah, as a player, he is, but when we're talking about truly winning a title, you are not going to unless you have Steph Curry and 3 other Hall of Famers with him. And he's never going to get that again unless he finds his way back to Golden State. Like I said, we have to separate Kevin Durant, the fantastic basketball player, and Kevin Durant, the project. Everything, all the baggage that comes along with him. I think it's funny as replying to fans on Twitter, but this is an insecure, unsure, in a way, he just can't live with the fact that NBA fans won't like him or appreciate him for no matter what move he makes. And in his head, he's always trying to just be like, can I just be appreciated for the player I am? And in turn, he's always so unsettled that the decisions he makes and it's the way he moves away from being a basketball player, it's just too much to handle.
So it's better off without.
Give me 6 picks, half of which unprotected, pick swaps, and 2 young players. Yep. You're not winning a championship. And I'm going to list you some teams in the Eastern Conference. You're going to tell me who's a more legitimate contender, both of you. The Miami Heat.
Contender.
Over the Nets, of course. But yeah, just contender or not. Boston Celtics.
Contender.
Milwaukee Bucks.
Contender.
Philadelphia 76ers. You can say it.
Push come to shove, no.
Contender.
I call him a contender when you have a runner-up for MVP and developing young talent. And PJ Tucker, your boy. A healthy Chicago Bulls. Patrick Williams developing.
Pretenders.
Yep.
I disagree with you, honestly. I think that team has the same championship equity as Brooklyn. When you have a 19-year-old that can shoot and defend and Pat Will, and a healthy Lonzo Ball maybe, Alex Caruso, a second year of continuity, better head coach.
They're the Atlanta Hawks of like 2015.
That was my next team. The Atlanta Hawks.
I'll go even bolder. The Knicks will have a better record than the Bulls next year.
Oh, okay. Hell no. That won't happen. But
that is possible. That is very possible. I'm not picking the Knicks or them. Okay, so you guys only have 4 contenders, and the Bucks, Heat, Celtics, and the Nets. You consider the Nets a contender? I know you do, Justin.
I would have the Nets as more of a contender over Philly and them if you tell me Kyrie, Ben Simmons, and KD are all on the team together.
Okay, so in my opinion, there are 3 contenders. No, 4. You guys are screwing me up. Milwaukee.
I'm not saying anything.
Milwaukee, Boston, Philadelphia, Miami. Those are 4 contenders. Okay. Then you have 4 legit playoff teams that you can say this team can easily win 50 games if things go right. Bulls, Hawks, Raptors.
If you're saying everything goes right, then you have to put the Nets in there because if KD, Kyrie, and Ben Simmons all play.
I'm not even saying it like that. I'm just saying if they stay healthy. Like the Bulls last year are ravaged by injuries. Let's just say they have some injuries, they can win 50 games.
That's what I'm saying.
But I mean,
the Nets.
They had way more injuries than the Nets last season.
John, you can't tell me if you got a healthy Ben Simmons, Kyrie, and KD that they're not like.
And Joe Harris and Seth Curry as well. But I mean, like the Cavaliers, every single player in the roster is hurt, and there's no continuity, and that's a younger team that's still building continuity. So for me, okay, yeah, we'll put the Nets in the same discussion as the Cavaliers, the Hawks, Bulls, Knicks are not in the discussion, and then the Raptors. That's basically 9 playoff teams. The Nets aren't good enough. They just aren't. They don't got a center. They don't got a head coach, and Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving's not enough in this Eastern Conference. Sorry. That's how I feel. Now moving on to the second.
Let's go.
Enough of Kevin Durant. I'm done talking about him. Second topic of the show. The offseason's quieted, but I want to know you guys, you have your teams, and maybe you pick them, maybe you don't. Fran, you're not picking your team. Justin, you could pick yours, maybe we'll see. To you, when you looked at all the moves made this offseason, we already discussed our favorite transactions. Mine was Malcolm Brogdon to the Celtics. But I want to know, what was your favorite offseason by a team? And more specifically, which team do you think had the best offseason? Either or.
I mean, I'll take it, Justin. This one for me, I'm going to be quick because I just think the Celtics by far had the best offseason. I mean, I don't really think it's close. I mean, you get Malcolm Brogdon, the guy everybody was complaining about. Well, not him, but in the Celtics in the finals, they didn't have a true point guard to set everything up. Now you got him. You bring in
Danilo Gallinari.
Danilo Gallinari, who's a good 3-point shooter. He's not afraid to take big shots. Man, you still got the nucleus of that team, and Ime Udoka, who's done a fantastic job as head coach.
And Brogdon really fits that scheme on defense too.
Who does?
Brogdon, a 6'5" switchable guard.
Yeah, I just see it as I think the Celtics had the best offseason. I don't think it's really close.
I actually think there are contenders because for them, they're already a true contender, and I feel like they're just like a miniature favorite. So I feel like they got 5% better this off season because Brogdon could really shoot it, and that shooting and defense they add, it's good, but the theory of it is not the reality. He doesn't really stay healthy that much. And Danilo Gallinari is not necessarily a player that fits their defense. He can shoot it and it'll be fine in the regular season, but I don't even expect him to play in the playoffs. And
Yeah.
their backup center now is Luke Cornett. I'm not really feeling good about that. Daniel Tyson gave them some really good minutes in that Brooklyn series. So I think the Celtics, they're right up there for having the best offseason. But quite honestly, I think the Denver Nuggets had just as good of a summer. When you look at what fits Jokic, cutting, shooting, switchable defenders. So they go out and get Bruce Brown for the mid-level exception. Terrific move. He had a career year last year. He shot the three well. Now, the one thing is when you see three-point improvement, you want to see the volume. He was taking just one attempt a game. It was not much. But Bruce Brown's a switchable guard that can play the five on offense, literally just being a roll man. He's going to run the floor hard in transition. Really good defensive player. We saw in Brooklyn, he was perfect playing off of Kevin Durant. Now you pair him with the most dynamic passer in basketball. I wouldn't be surprised if there's games where Bruce Brown's putting up 20 points to go along with a healthy Jamal Murray. The theory of Michael Porter Jr. coming off flares and different types of screens, knocking down crazy, contest the three-point, no one's contested Michael Porter Jr.'s shot. But then they also go out and make a trade that I didn't like initially, trading maybe the best backup point guard in basketball, Monte Morris, and a starter in Will Barton for a wing player that fits perfectly in Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and a backup point guard does not fit this team whatsoever in Ish Smith. But let me tell you, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is another player who has won a championship. And at this point in his career, he's on the wrong side of 30. He's not young, but he's still a really solid defensive player that can switch. And last year in the postseason, we saw against the Warriors, what did they need? Guys who could make the way and get skinny through screens, that can knock down three-point shots. Their go-to defender was Austin Rivers. He's now in Minnesota. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope's an immediate step up. And I think those two moves, getting Brown and KCP, two guys that fit the system well, and honestly, a guy in Brown who has not hit his ceiling yet, I think those are two of the most underrated moves. And quite honestly, it makes the Nuggets a top 3 team in the West. Before those two moves, they're like the number 5 team right after Dallas to me. But I think in terms of scheme fit, those are two guys that are going to play in the playoffs. We don't know if Brogdon's going to stay healthy, and we don't know if Gallo's even going to get playing time in the postseason. So for me, the Denver Nuggets, and I got another team, but Justin, I want to hear yours first.
So I got two. I'm like Brandon. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But one team that I feel like isn't getting a lot of attention, but I feel like they could finish in the top 3 seed in the Western Conference and really be fighting for an NBA Finals appearance. Let's see if I want you to take a guess. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Pelicans,
No,
Timberwolves.
talking about the Clippers.
Oh,
Listen, man, I believe in Kawhi. I believe in PG. You throw John Wall in there. They kept the vast majority of their free agents. I feel like this team is ready to take on a next step. Hopefully, Kawhi is healthy and PG also this upcoming season, and let's see what they got going, man. I love the claw, man. We saw what he did in Toronto. I love what the Clippers got going for them, and right now, sitting here, I think they're the best team in LA. My second team, which I'm a big fan of, I'd say uh, I'm a big fan of Carl Anthony Towns. I love the Timberwolves. You go out there. I'm a big fan of teams that go out there and they're like, "Yo, I'm just giving it all right now. We're going for this championship. We're going to do whatever it takes to get it." And going to get the best defensive big or one of the best defensive bigs in the game today and Gobert this offseason, you're telling Cat, you're telling Anthony Edwards, "Yo, this is it. We're ready to win right now. We're ready to take over the West. Let's go fight, man." And I love that energy, man. They had some games this season where you just, oh man, you just saw the future. You just saw that they had so much potential. And I love Anthony Edwards, man, the fire that he plays with. And we have yet to see his ceiling. He's still climbing. He is still climbing. This guy's going to be an MVP candidate for years to come. And Minnesota right now, they're primed to take that next step. So those are my two teams that I got that I'm very ecstatic about.
I love what you just said. We had this conversation in the Pick a Side podcast I was on one time, and Joel, the host, asked, who will have the better career, Ja Morant or Anthony Edwards? You guys want to answer that question?
Is that Anthony Edwards?
No, I'm asking what you think.
Oh, I'd like Anthony Edwards.
I really like John Morant. I
I
really
said
like
Ja
that.
Morant at the time, but that was in February. And I watched Anthony Edwards go into a postseason series against, let's just say it how it is. The Grizzlies were clear favorites with Ja, and Anthony Edwards was the Timberwolves' best player, 20 years old. And people don't realize there was uncertainty about him coming into the 2020 draft because at Georgia, he had an inconsistent motor. But that competitive fire that you speak of, Justin, we're just starting to see that come out now. And he's already a 20-point per game scorer at his age. I wouldn't be surprised if this dude has a John Morant type of leap next year, where we see him playmaking growth. If he can just add a mid-range shot to that arsenal as a scorer, he can lead the league in scoring for years to come, all while being a pest in transition, on defense, and being a leader that Minnesota hasn't had in the locker room.
Yeah, sky's the limit, man. This guy's gonna win an MVP in one of the next 5 years. I'm calling it.
He's just 20. He's a year older than me. I mean,
Mhm.
he might have turned 21. His birthday's in August. I also had another team, Justin. It's your team, by the way. Brandon, Anthony Edwards turned 21 on August 5th. I should have shouted him on the Instagram. Brandon, yes, son? I cut you off.
Oh, no, I was just saying I as August baby because I was born in August too.
That's insane how
August
young he is.
21st.
Oh, are we gonna have a birthday episode for Brandon?
We are going to be recording an episode. I think the 21st. Usually do record our NFL episodes on Sunday.
I'll buy you a cupcake.
Yeah, ship it in the mail.
For the show. My second team, Justin, you might be surprised by this because I know you're not very high on their off season, but I think the New York Knicks are the most underrated summer of all the teams. People hype up Jalen Brunson and put him on a pedestal with their Knicks fans because they want hope. And hey, look, I'm with it. I think Jalen Brunson is going to be the best point guard the Knicks have had in a long time because as a scorer, he's versatile, he's creative, and then as a playmaker, he's more than capable. And he's playing for Tom Thibodeau, a guy that he, let's say it how it is, part of the reason I went to New York is because he's had a long-term relationship with Tibbs, and he's saying to himself, now I get to play for this guy who's always going to push me on defense. You pair that with RJ Barrett, who really just is a finishing package away from making an all-star game. We just saw it with Anthony Edwards.
Mhm.
And maybe the best budget pickup of the offseason and Isaiah Hartenstein, the Knicks are set in the front court. Between Mitchell Robinson, who I know you're higher on the defensive end, Hartenstein basically can do it all. He can defend at a high level. He gets into foul trouble, but he passes very well, has a good mid-range shot. He can score off lobs. Really, he just gets a bunch of energy off the bench. And when you combine that with Obi Toppin, I think the Garden next year is going to be so pumped up. I mean, you talk about Obi, you know how it is. He just fires, like, he lights a fire underneath you. And I think with Hartenstein, you're getting him for under $10 million a year. You re-sign Mitchell Robinson, which I thought was no overpay. It was 4 years, $78 million, right?
Yeah.
I'll be honest, that was probably the worst move, just because you can replace that with so many different players on a rookie contract. It's not always as simple as I'm making it out to be, but I don't think he's worth more than $10 million a year, quite honestly. Hardenstein for $7 million for the next 2 years, that is terrific. And you still have all this young talent that you've kept. And Quentin Grimes, Miles McBride, you and I are both a fan of. We'll see if he actually gets the playing time this season. And Cam Reddish. There is a logjam though at point guard. I don't know if Emmanuel Quickly and Derrick Rose is going to work out with Jalen Brunson being in the fold. But to me, the Knicks had the most underrated offseason. Isaiah Hartenstein was one of the best moves, and Jalen Brunson was a great pickup that races this team's floor big time. And hey, look, who else were they getting this summer with the cap space they had? No one.
I love that you said that, but there was one thing that you didn't mention is that while it may not be worth it, but they're still in the position to acquire a star if need be. We have assets if we need to make a trade. And there's still a man out in Utah who doesn't really want to be there. We've spoken about it before. We do have the assets if we want to trade for him. So the Knicks put them in, they're not only in a position where they're going to improve this upcoming season, but we're also in a position to acquire somebody that is going to really give the fan base hope hope that we might win a championship in the near future.
The team is young. 25-year-old Jalen Brunson, 22-year-old RJ Barrett still on that rookie contract. We just mentioned Reddish, Toppin, Quickly, Grimes, Sims, McBride. Sims looked pretty good in the summer league. We'll see if he can really fill out a role in the front court. He's also 25, so that's pretty old for a second-year player. Do you guys any other team before we move on to our third? Oh no, Sims is 23. That's my fault. He's turning 24 in October. Now, Justin, you're saying that the Knicks lost. I'm looking this up now. An actual game, a pro-am with
Yeah, it
3
was
players.
Julius Randle, Jalen Brunson, and Obi Toppin. They lost by 13, if I'm not mistaken.
New York City Hoops. Now, we've gotten into many shooting guard debates in the past. Brand, you and I have conflicting opinions on Klay Thompson, of course. I played shooting guard growing up mostly because I wasn't a good enough point guard. And, you look at me, I just shoot threes. This is going to be a fun one. Do one of you two want to kick it off, or do you want me to start off?
Yeah, how do you guys want to do this? Because Justin's probably going to be the
mediator, right?
Mediator. Justin, do you want to give us yours?
Okay.
And then we'll take it from there?
Yes, sir. All right. At number 1, he's a New York legend, John Starks. No, I'm just messing with you guys. I was trying to see a reaction. All right, obviously number 1. If you guys don't have the guy number 1 on your list, you're sick. It's Michael Jordan. There's no debate. 6-time champ. 6-time Finals MVP at the same time. But one of my favorite stats, and before pre-show we were talking, and I was like, wow. If you really take the time to look at all his accolades, it's just Jesus Christ. There's not a better resume in the world. But my favorite stat is his 9-time All Defensive team. I love that. I love me a guy that can go out there and drop 30 and at the same time guard the best player on the floor with no hesitation. So MJ,
Justin, how about winning MVP and Defensive Player in the same year?
well, did I
'Cause he
mention?
did that.
Well, I mentioned 6-time champ and 6-time Finals
He
MVP.
might have won the championship that year too, but I'm not 100% sure. He might
That
have
was
won
prior.
That was
was
prior.
I
prior.
think his defensive
Are you
player of the year was in 1980.
He was the MVP though.
Oh, it was 1988.
He was the MVP though, right?
Yeah, he averaged 35 a game with 3 steals and 1 MVP.
Wow.
Playing 40 minutes, which also led the NBA.
Did he average? He averaged 8 rebounds and 8 assists, I think, that year too.
Oh, that was the following season, 89.
Okay.
Yeah, he averaged a measly 39, 8, and 8.
That's it.
And just 3 steals as well. That didn't lead the league, so.
No, but that's insane. And then he's a 10-time scoring champion, which is crazy to say because the greatest scorer that I've ever witnessed in my career in my lifetime is Kobe Bryant, one of the greatest scorers of the basketball, and he's only a 2-time scoring champ. So it's like, I glow when I talk about Kobe. He's one of the few NBA jerseys that I have, but he's my number 2. God rest his soul. Not only was he just an impact on the court, but an impact outside, and he was, just blessed in the game of basketball. It's sad that we won't see that anymore, but
Rest in peace, Kobe.
yeah, R.I.P. Kobe. So Kobe number 2. Number 3, I always tell you guys I love to pick players that I've seen. So I could have gone a lot of places, but number 3, I'm going to go with D Wade, man. One of the greatest defensive guards you'd ever see, but also one of the greatest slashing guards that you'll ever see. That guy would get to the rim so fast, throw it down on you. He didn't have the best 3-point shot, but his mid-range game was sick. D Wade, one of the greatest basketball players you'll ever see. And you know what makes me laugh? So I work with kids that are just infatuated with basketball today, but still don't understand just how good Dwyane Wade was in his prime. When he won the championship, was it back in
6.
06? Yes.
06.
06. I told one of my kids the other day, I was like, go back and watch a highlight tape, man. Watch what D Wade was doing back then, and then come back to me. The next day, the kid came back. He was like, yo, I want to be like him when I get older. I'm like, yeah, man, you should.
Was
That's
that
like
the most? Was that the
what?
most underrated finals run of all time? Because Shaq wasn't doing that. That wasn't
Bro,
Shaq and D Wade. That was D
I'll
Wade.
argue to this. I'll argue to this day. I mean, you can give me that Shaq finals when he went completely off. I think he almost averaged 40 points a game and like 15 rebounds. I forget that was
Any
either
of
oh
those
one or
3 years they won, 2000,
yeah.
01, 02.
But that Dwayne Wade performance, especially because I mean, Shaq had Kobe. Kobe hadn't come into that Kobe nature yet, just yet. But man, Wade put that team on his back. Like he beat his body up. Talk about put the team on his back. I mean, but continue, Justin. Sorry,
Oh,
go ahead.
all good, bro. All good. And number 4, I got Clyde Drexler. You look at the stats speak for itself. So I'll go that high, man. That guy was a legend back then. So I'm not gonna harp too much on the people that I don't see. I'll talk about the people that I love to watch as a kid. So number 5, you could argue whether or not he's a point guard, shooting guard, whatever. I like to go AI. The answer I'll give him it. One of the that was an underrated final. Well, not even an underrated finals run that he had to get to go up against the Lakers. But AI, nobody took over a game better than him. And at the same time, people in the league today have handles and they're showing off their handles. Why? It was because of this guy. Allen Iverson would cross somebody up better than anybody else. Number 6, this might get more controversial. I got James Harden.
Should be higher.
Okay, that's fine, and I wouldn't even argue that. I think James Harden. I talk about Kevin Durant as probably the most talented offensive player I've ever seen in my life. One of them. James Harden is up there too. His prime with Houston. Right now, we're seeing this weird version of him that I thought we'd never see. But if you go back and watch Houston James Harden, he'll blow you away. Number 7, I got one of my favorite shooters of all time. I used to mimic this guy's jump shot. Never worked. I can't shoot to save my life, but I got Ray Allen. I fell in love with his shot when he was with Boston. I used to dream to have calves like Ray Allen. So Ray Allen's the freaking man. Until Steph Curry walked into the league, we all knew Ray Allen was the greatest shooter ever. Uh, right now, he's number 2 in my mind. Number 8, Reggie Miller. I hate to say it, man. I hate that documentary of him looking at Spike Lee like this, but Reggie Miller was a dog, man. That guy would go up against anybody day in and day out. And number 9, underrated. It's not talked about much. Kids don't even know about him today. Tracy McGrady. I love T-Mac. Whether it be with Houston, I used to love T-Mac in his short stint with the Knicks. And believe me, I think I only saw like 2, 3 games out of it. But Tracy McGrady, one of the more underrated players of all time, and obviously his career would have been even greater if it wasn't for injuries. I would have loved to throw Vince Carter onto this list because he was another player, if it weren't for injuries, that we would have saw even more records broken or more accolades tallied on his resume. But Tracy McGrady, I think if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, but Kobe Bryant said the toughest player he's ever guarded, or one of them, was T-Mac.
The reason why he said that is because he can do everything I can. The difference is he's 3 inches taller.
That's saying a lot, man. T-Mac was an absolute monster. And then I'm gonna show a little love to my New York Knicks now. This is old school. I know it's very unlike me, but I've heard so many stories about this guy. But I'm gonna give love to Earl the Pearl Monroe. I'm gonna throw him at number 10. And the last time the Knicks won a championship, I believe, was with Earl Pearl in the fold. So,
74?
sir,
73 is 73, my fault.
yeah.
So Justin, just run down the names again that
All
you
right.
had.
MJ, Kobe, Dwayne Wade, Clyde Drexler, Allen Iverson, James Harden, Reggie Miller, Ray Allen. Ray Allen was 7. Reggie Miller was 8. Tracy McGrady 9, and Earl the Pearl 10.
The one player I felt like you're missing off that list was George
There's
Gervin.
2 people. There's 2 people for me that he's leaving off, but okay.
Oh, yeah.
I
we
mean,
know-
this.
we know
What's
who the
crazy?
second's
I
gonna be.
wasn't yelled at about this list, so
Oh,
it's not
last time
done.
I wasn't yelling at you. I was yelling at all the people who don't understand how great Jerry West was. Let me say that. I think
I
Jerry
mean,
West is one of the most underrated historic guys.
I'm gonna give you the flack for the list, but I'm gonna just start off. I mean, the obvious ones for me are the top three. Like, I just don't think they're arguable.
Want to hear something kind of
And
crazy? Sorry, I'm gonna cut you off real quick. Michael Jordan has as many scoring titles as the next four shooting guards that came after him. If you combine Kobe's two, Wade's one, Allen's four, and Harden's. Oh wait, I can't do math. I forgot. No, I'm joking. If you combine Harden's three, Allen Iverson's four, Wade's one, and Kobe's two, that is 10.
yep,
Jordan had 10.
yep,
Wow.
Think about that.
yep. So, well, like I was saying, I mean, great tee up, John. MJ, the GOAT, um, inarguable. I mean, one thing you guys didn't mention that I'll mention is never saw a Game 7 in the NBA Finals. Always ended in Game 6. One of the most iconic players. There's not much really to say on Michael Jordan. I mean, I, I'll leave the goat when we do the goat debate to dive in more about Michael Jordan. But MJ, number two, Kobe Bryant, the Black Mamba. I mean, he's also like MJ. There's not much really I need to say about it. I mean, Kobe is him. 81 points in one game. Stats that I kind of looked up that were pretty cool to me. In 2003, he had 9 straight games with 40 plus points, and in 2007, he had 4 straight games of 50 plus points. So I mean, he 65 against the Blazers, 50 against the T Wolves, 60 against Memphis, 50 against the Hornets, and in the fifth game where he didn't get 50 or more, he scored 43 against Golden State. So I mean, and we all know, yes, it's a lot of the newer generation are yelling Curry and whatnot, but I think we all know when we throw a scrumpled up paper into a garbage can, we're yelling Kobe. And it's all respect.
You,
R.I.P. Kobe.
you know
Gone
what's
way
funny
too
about
soon.
that?
Yeah.
So you mentioned that literally, I think it was just yesterday. I threw a Gatorade bottle at the garbage can and I missed. But while doing it, right after, my boss yells, Kobe. And I was like, no, 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 don't yell that. I missed. You can't do that. You can't,
Yep.
out of
Can't do
respect.
that. Can't do that to Kobe. Yeah. Uh, man, I miss Kobe so much. Um, Number three, my favorite player of all time, the Flash. The reason I'm a basketball fan, the reason I'm a Miami Heat fan, Dwyane Wade. I mean, I touched on his unselfishness before, but I mean, 3-time champ, Finals MVP, 13-time All Star, 8-time All NBA, 3-time All Defense, scoring champ. I mean, one of the clutchest players of all time. This guy, you go to him in the fourth quarter, and he would show up for you. I mean, for me, growing up, there's two people I'd never bet against, and it was Tom Brady and Dwyane Wade. I'm not bent against them. That internal stuff is real for me, and when you got that, you got that. um, number four, I got AI. I mean, universally recognized as pound for pound best player of all time. I mean, if this guy was 6'6" with that skill set, it might not have been close. One of the deepest bags, one of the greatest handles in the NBA history. Like Justin said, the handle. I mean, he revolutionized. I mean, really revolutionized that. I mean, I hate to say it, but you can even ask MJ about that too. Um, and also just to talk about his influentialness on the NBA and the players coming after. I mean, I've heard quotes about this. Before him, you didn't really see NBA players with tattoos all down their arms, cornrows, wearing that stuff, pregame clothes, all that stuff, and he really revolutionized it. He was impactful to the game and to show and be one's true self, and that's all respect and all love to AI. The answer. Um, Number five, I got Reggie Miller. And the reason I got Reggie above the other couple people, the person right after him actually, is because I think they're neck and neck, and you can switch them. Is he was able to be the ipso facto leader and best player on a team that made it to the NBA Finals. I mean, he's known as and sorry, Justin, but you know his nickname, the Nick Killer. What he did against your Knicks over and over and over again. I mean, you were alive, but you probably weren't watching that much, so you could probably thank your lucky stars you didn't have to witness that, or you probably would have had a deep hatred for Reggie Miller. Um, the accolades won't really be there, but we all know about Reggie Miller. I mean, he's a part of an elite company in the 50-40-90 club. He's a Hall of Famer. He led the league in free throw percentage 5 times. He's one of the early revolutionizers of the 3-point shot. I mean, just imagine him in today's NBA. His numbers would be up there with the Klay Thompson and the Steph Curry and all those guys. Um, to me, he's the top 5 greatest 3-point shooter of all time. I just want to say that for me, it goes Curry, Klay, Ray Allen, Reggie Miller, and then number 5. I have a question mark. You can, put whoever you want over there. And
Paul Pierce.
last, huh?
Ooh.
Paul, get the hell out of here.
For me,
and
it's
last
either
thing,
Corver or Reddick.
yeah, you could put them up there. You could. They're up there, definitely. Last thing on Reggie Miller. I mean, sorry, Justin, but the 8 points in 9 seconds in the 1995 playoffs. I mean, that happened. It's an insane highlight to watch even to this day.
Come on. How old do you think I am?
He was alive.
No, I know.
then,
I'm just
bro.
saying. I'm just bringing up your New York Knicks. You know what I mean?
Because you said I might have been alive for this. No, I wasn't.
No, I know.
Fortunately,
No, I didn't
wasn't.
say you were alive for this one. I just said I'm sorry to bring it up.
Oh, okay.
It might
All
be
right.
a touchy because it's your team history. It might be a touchy subject. I'm saying I'm sorry to bring it up.
People that don't know, I'm only 24.
Yeah,
Please.
no, I
Well, in the
understand.
comments
I'm
on the
not making you.
Instagram comments, they're calling you guys old men. So
Yeah, I'm not calling you an old man. Listen, I'm pretty sure I'm the oldest guy here. All right, so relax. Um, number what am I on? Number 6, Ray Allen, aka Jesus Shuttleworth. Uh, another guy just like Reggie Miller. Could you imagine Ray Allen in today's NBA? He'd be up there right with the best of them. He was doing Steph Curry things, before Steph Curry with that 3-point shot. It was deadly. Um, the way he was able to dominate games off ball, he had the ability to create off the dribble. Did that more in his earlier years. Um, it's just, and he holds a special place in my heart for Ray Allen. It, I'll always remember, and I wrote, I specifically wrote the quote down here, and I just, quote, James catches, puts up a 3, won't go, rebound Bosch, back out Allen, bang, tie game with 5 seconds remaining. Forget about it, dude. That was one of the greatest moments of my life. I'll take that to my grave. By the legendary Mike Breen too. I think it's one of the greatest sports calls in the history of sports. I mean, it's just a legendary call.
that is my favorite play of all time basketball history.
It's
I've watched at least.
It's legendary.
Talk about it more. I'm up.
Legend. Oh man, the emotions I was going through that night. Oh boy,
That was past my bedtime too.
The craziest thing is about that moment that not to cut you guys off.
No, go ahead.
It's just that no matter what team you supported, you were all into that game. I could only imagine how you felt as a Miami Heat fan watching that. Like me as just an NBA fan, I'm losing my mind right now.
Bro, they carded the NBA trophy into the arena during I think the third quarter or whatever. They started to card it in.
As they should. I was watching it yesterday. I'm not joking. I had chills watching that game.
It's legendary. Down the stretch where LeBron loses his headband, goes headbandless, goes crazy.
Damn, I might have to rewatch this game again, man.
Oh man.
If LeBron loses that game,
it changes a lot.
I think he wins in 2014 if he loses 2013, but still.
It's debatable depending on, Dwyane Wade's knees at that point and whatnot. But yeah. Number I'm up to 7. Number 7, I got Klay Thompson. Game 6 Klay. John liked to mention other people. He might mention other people as one of the most underappreciated and underrated people in NBA history. But Klay Thompson is that. I mean, and you're gonna hear it from John's lips to God's ears. The underappreciation, the underratedness, and the disrespect to Klay Thompson. I mean, even his accolades, you can see he's been disrespected. Like he's only a two-time NBA All NBA third team. Only made all defense second team once. I mean, that's just disrespectful. This guy was giving you 20 plus a night. He's one of the greatest three-point shooters of all time. He could heat up like honestly, almost nobody can get as hot as Klay when he's on, except for probably Curry. Um, he's got the record for most points scored in a regular season quarter with that 37, like I talked about in the last episode. He's got the most 3-pointers scored in a regular season game with 14. Most 3-pointers made in a single playoff game, tied with Curry. A single playoff run with 98. Eight out of 9 seasons, 40% or higher. Great two-way player, 3-and-D. I mean, this guy is like, if you look at a shooting guard and you tell me what the jobs of a shooting guard is, the literal definition of shooting guard is it's in the word shooting. Klay Thompson is one of the greatest shooters to ever live. So that means, if so facto, he is a top 10 shooting guard of all time. Especially, so that's just cherry on top that he can give you all NBA defensive levelness. I'll continue in because I know John wants to start making his points. I'll just quickly go out. Right after him at number 8, I got Manu Ginobili. Talk about another, yeah. I know John loved that. I mean, talk about another underrated, underappreciated guy. The accolades and the stats aren't going to blow you away or whatever, but the impact he had, I think we all can understand. I got to witness it firsthand 2 years in a row. Yes, we won the first year, but that second year we got blown out by a record margin in 5 games, I believe. I'll just read some things that I looked up about him. Pop said about Manu that he was the driving force of that Spurs dynasty. In a list of 132 players who have played at least 1,000 games, Manu Ginobili has the highest winning percentage with 72%. In 2004, he led the Argentina national team to the gold medal over Team USA. The first time other than USA to win a gold in 16 years. On that USA team, LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, AI, Dwyane Wade, Amari Stoudemire, and his buddy, his teammate Tim Duncan. I mean, he's the guy who really he didn't invent the Euro step, but he popularized that Euro step. He was part of the. You can't tell the NBA story without a Manu Ginobili.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, super clutch as well. Right after him, I'll give him his flowers. James Harden. MVP.
About time.
MVP, 7-time All NBA, 6th Man of the Year, 3-time scoring champ, led the league in assists, 10-time All Star, career 25, 5 and 7. He's a volume player. He's got elite handles. He's a pretty good shooter, very good playmaker. It's just for me when I look at it, I look at the negatives and I can literally go down the list. I have it written right here of the faults. Not all the faults, but just some things that have transpired in his Houston days, and that's why I'm not going to put him higher. The chokes have been way too much and countless times.
Let's hear it.
And at 10, I have a tie. I have George Gervin and Tracy McGrady. I can't really speak much on George Gervin. I can only tell you really his stats and his accolades. 9-time All-Star, 7-time All-NBA, 4-time scoring champ, career 26, 4 4.5, a steal a game on 51% shooting. And Tracy McGrady, like Justin said, I mean, this guy was giving a lot of people problems for a good 7-year stretch. He averaged 27, 6.5 and 5.5, 6.5 rebounds, 5.5 assists, steal and a half a game, and about a 1 block a game for that 7-year stretch. If injuries derailed what could have been really special with TMac. That's my top 10. John, if you want to fire away, let's start shooting, brother.
Only 7 players in NBA history have won a scoring and assist title. That's all I'm going to say. Starting off, I guess I'm starting from 1 to 10 because, look, shooting guards are weird because you know the top 3, and then you feel like you know number 4. You would think until Brand lists James Harden number 9. 4, 5, and 6, but where it really gets dicey and really close, like, who do I pick here? Is 7 through 12. A few players you guys left out, or 7 through 14, quite honestly. There's a lot of honorable mentions. Number 1, Michael Jordan. I mean, he averaged 30 points per game in the regular season. In his prime, or no, for his career, he averaged 30 points a game. In the playoffs, that went up to 33. 5th all time in win shares. The dude won 5 MVPs. If you literally just remove the 6 NBA championships and the 6 Finals MVPs, he's still in the top 5 of this list. Then you add in the 5, or the 6 Finals appearances, the 6 titles, and the 6 Finals MVPs. Number 2, Kobe Bryant. When I go to his basketball reference page today, I think the coolest thing I see is that he won a damn Oscar in 2018. And I know that's not related to basketball, but part of ranking and looking at greatness is influence. That just speaks to the aura of Kobe Bryant. No other player can say that. And again, it doesn't relate to the basketball court, but in a way it does. It speaks to his mindset and his philosophy and the way he approached the game. And when we talk about iconic game winners, one of the 3 greatest runs Brandon alluded to before, that insane streak in 2004, 2006, 81 points. Devin Booker scored 70, and I was like, holy cow. But Devin Booker's playing catch-up the entire game, and the Suns were fouling just for him to get the 60 points. I don't know in the next 20 years if another player is going to score 70 points in a game. Kobe had 81. And I want to remind you, during that run, he had a game where he had, I think it was, it was some ridiculous amount of points, and he literally came out of the game. He could have scored 70 or 80 that game. He's like, I'll get another time. And he did weeks later. People are always trying to find the next MJ. And there's no one that's going to replace him. But if there is anyone, and I mean anyone that's going to come close, it is Mr. Kobe Bryant. I think the biggest difference between him as players is that MJ had a certain balance and size in his hands. MJ could just do things that no other athlete in this sport has been able to. Number 3, I got Dwyane Wade. I mean, quite frankly, it was the most underrated run ever. I mean, keep this in mind. We forget this. He won a championship on his own a decade before LeBron James did. And that's not a shot at LeBron James. He was 23 years old winning his first NBA championship. And like I said before, that wasn't Shaq and D Wade. That was D Wade and company. The dude was 23 years old, taking out Dirk Nowitzki and a Dallas Maverick team that was loaded. I mean, I feel like we were robbed of a longer prime, quite frankly, because after 2012, it was over. I was watching 2013 finals the other day. Dwyane Wade was a smaller but far more explosive breed of Jimmy Butler. He was kind of like if you coalesce Ja Morant and Jimmy into one person. Think about how strange that is. You have Jimmy Butler's defense, his mid-range scoring, his creativity, with Ja's creativity, flash, athleticism, and then you get power mixed in there somewhere too. We only got that for 6-7 years. And for me, I barely got to see it, which is why I'm so sad that I didn't get to watch this dude in 2006. I was a toddler. I was 2 years old. Number 4, man, I went back and forth with this one because these 2 players are very close. And influence played a large role here for me. I have to go with Allen Iverson. influence is a big word. I'm putting Kobe at 2. I value influence to some degree. Brown, you hit the nail on the head. And this guy's third in the postseason in points per game. The one thing we do forget, though, is they only got out of the first round 4 times. And in one of those series, he was swept in 99. Lost in 6 to Indiana in 02, or 2000, excuse me. And 03, lost to Detroit. So only one time he got out of the second round. And he went to the finals that season. But just the cumulative story of AI. 7-time All-NBA. Pound for pound, the best player of all time. MVP. Number 5, this is a toss-up. I have James Harden. One of only 7 players to have an assist and points per game title. 3-time scoring champ. And Bryn, you talked before about how he chokes in the clutch. And look, his closeout games, the stats there are not pretty, and you may have them right there. But at the same time, he won 6th Man of the Year and helped an OKC team get to the finals coming off the bench. He's had moments in his career, and this is what really bothers me about you having Klay Thompson over James Harden on your all-time shooting guard list. The Golden State Warriors are the best team of all time, and it wasn't even close. And the only single team in the NBA who gave them a run for their damn money was James Harden and the Rockets. The fact they're able to take that team to 7 games speaks to how great a player James Harden is. No? You disagree with that?
No. I disagree with one statement you said. That was Chris Paul, baby. Don't you forget it. What was James Harden before Chris Paul? And what was James Harden when Chris Paul left? What happened to James Harden and company when Chris Paul went down?
It's showtime.
They had the worst, and I repeat, the worst shooting performance in, I believe, NBA playoff history. These guys couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat.
My man. How many other teams are taking the Warriors to 7 games? A fully healthy Warriors team with Kevin Durant, the second best player in basketball, Steph Curry, the third best player in basketball, Draymond Green, a bona fide superstar in defense, one of the best defenders of all time, Klay Thompson, the best 3-and-D Wayne, Steve Kerr, more rings than his own fingers, a Hall of Famer, one of the best benches, and the same exact team from 2017 that was literally unbeatable. That 2018 Warriors team, how many games did the Cavaliers take him? How many games did LeBron James take that 2018 Warriors team, Brand?
4-game sweep.
0 wins.
Yeah.
Harden and the Rockets had 3.
No, not Harden and the Rockets. Stop it. Chris Paul.
But
it's not a coincidence once Chris Paul goes down, they blow Game 6 and Game 7, and Game 7's in Houston, James Harden's house.
It's not a coincidence every single season Chris Paul runs down.
When Draymond Green is asked if the Houston Rockets were ever a problem or an issue for them, he laughed them off and said, we were never going to lose to those Houston Rockets teams. Ever. Because they understood what was going to happen. Need I remind you what happened in the second round of the playoffs, I believe the year before that they took Golden State 7 games. The year before that was just James Harden, I believe Dwight Howard. Okay, against the Spurs in the second round. In Game 5, he had 9 total turnovers and got blocked on the game-winning, game-tying 3 in overtime by Manu Ginobili. Right? And then in Game 6, and then in Game 6 with no Kawhi Leonard, by the way, no Kawhi. The Rockets get blown out, and Harden's stat line was 2 for 11 from the field and 2 for 9 from 3, with 6 turnovers, a -28, and he fouled out of the game.
That one stinks.
That's just one of many of James Harden's failures.
That one really does sting, and it might be the worst failure of Harden's career. That game, look, it was terrible. You want to know what's almost as bad as? Game 7 of the 2016 NBA Finals. Now, Draymond Green, who you mentioned before, he was the one that was saving Klay Thompson and Steph Curry, who was getting double-teamed. In spite of Steph constantly drawing doubles, In
Oh.
spite of having the greatest year next to him, Klay Thompson was
timeout.
an absolute no-show in that Game 7 as the Warriors finished
What about Curry?
But you're not listening to what I'm saying. Curry was constantly double-teamed, and so you had to make the right play. It's kicking to your teammates. Klay Thompson shot 2 for 10 from 3, and if he's one of the 7, 8 best shooting guards of all time, he's got to make his shots. 35% shooting, 14 points, and a negative 11, and a 4-point loss. Klay Thompson was one of the biggest reasons they blew a 3-1 lead. That is way worse than James Harden. Let's say it how it is. After being the clear MVP that season, averaging 29 points and 11 assists, then in the playoffs, like we've seen Kevin Durant the last few years, running out of gas because it's unfair to hold a player to a certain standard in the postseason after for the last 75 to 82 games, he was consistently an MVP candidate, giving you 30 and 11. No human being can withstand that type of load for 100 games.
Hold on. Was it Klay Thompson who threw that ball behind his back late in that game? Or was that Steph Curry? And I don't believe he was double teamed either on that play. No, I didn't see a double team. There was just one guy in his face and he just threw it right behind his back. Yeah, that's Klay Thompson's fault. That his teammate is being lackadaisical in the waning minutes of a fourth quarter, Game 7 on the line in Oracle. Yeah, that's Klay Thompson's fault. Klay Thompson's not known for being fancy. Curry's for that. Curry is a new age player that likes to get a little cocky. And that's one of the reasons a lot of people like him. It's one of the reasons I like him a lot. I like it, bro. You're a small guy who gets crapped on all the time. Yo, talk your ish, bro. Talk your ish, because you're the greatest shooter of all time. You worked your ass off to get here. But time after time, we've seen Curry get lackadaisical, get too overconfident. And that's not Klay Thompson's fault. Klay Thompson's never been known to do that. Klay Thompson is Mr. Fundamentals, like I said last week. This guy is not going to beat himself.
How'd that work for him? He wasn't making shots.
John, you I think you said earlier in this episode, right, that you pride yourself on being a shooter, right?
Yes.
Then you, of all people, should know, do shooters go through slumps?
Yep.
And how do you get out of it? You just got to shoot through it. So I can explain that as Klay Thompson going through a shooting slump. He had a slump. And so did his buddy Steph Curry. Draymond was the guy who showed up. That he probably would have been Finals MVP that Finals run because he dropped, I think, 32, 11, and 10 or something in Game 7.
He actually did show up for that game.
What I'm saying with James Harden, okay, you pointed to that, but I can point to Klay Thompson, I believe, freaking shot the boys out of the gym, the arena in OKC in Game 6, I believe, of that playoff run.
That was insane.
I mean, we could go tit for tat, but what you can't go tit for tat is Klay Thompson's shortcomings to Harden's shortcomings because they've been more consistent and prominent.
Do you want to know the reason for that? I'm sure, Justin, you would agree with me here, and if you don't, you can surely jump in. I just said before, Harden was the runner-up for MVP to Russell Westbrook that year, but Harden didn't have the team around him. You thought he had Dwight. Dwight Howard was not on that team. It was Harden, Lou Williams, Patrick Beverley, Eric Gordon, Ryan Anderson, Trevor Ariza. That is not much better than that OKC team that Russell Westbrook had around him. And we praised Russell Westbrook for losing 5 games in the first rounds. But we discount Harden for going 6 deep with the San Antonio team that had one of the greatest coaches of all time. And though Kawhi was out, still a really well-rounded team filled with former All-Stars that played the game the right way. Harden just, let's say how it is, had a terrible game, but that one single night should not discount the fact that season, yet again, Harden averaged 29 points and 11 assists. Klay Thompson never come close to either of those teams.
In the regular season?
In the regular season, yes. That's what gets you to the playoffs. Because think about it this way. He played 82 games, led the NBA minutes that year, 38. And so we're going to discount him for one.
I'll be honest with you. I love this, but sorry to burst your bubble, Brandon. But I don't think Klay Thompson can do half of the things that James Harden can do on an NBA floor. As far as his talent on the offensive side, yeah, Klay's job, and I won't knock a shooter. Shooter's gonna shoot, and that's his job. His job is stand at 3-point line and knock down shots. And before all the injuries, he's guarding your best man on the floor. So I'll give Klay all the credit in the world. And honestly, I was struggling whether or not to throw him in my top 10. I'm a big fan of Klay, but yeah, man, James Harden talent wise, I don't really think they compare. So I would have put James Harden over
But
Klay Thompson.
like I've said before about talent, right? You can get lost in talent.
But
A
the
lot of
thing
people
is,
get.
even though you could say, yeah, we can get lost in talent, but we're not talking about future NBA prospects. We're talking about established ones. His
No,
talent is clear cut
we are
better.
no.
He's done the
I
best
wasn't.
with his
I'm not
talent.
questioning the talent. I'm saying that you can get lost in the talent, and what
But
I'm
we're
going to say
not.
is that talent indicative of winning in
Yeah.
the playoffs? No, it's not. You can look at James Harden's numbers in the playoffs. Yet the scoring, the points, the assists, and the rebounds will be there. But take a deeper look at that field goal percentage. Take a deeper look at that 3-point percentage. It goes down. And usually it goes down almost each round of the playoffs. I attribute that to, I think you guys can agree that in the playoffs, the game speeds up each round it goes on. The game is called different each round it goes on. It's a tougher game, more physical. James Harden's not that's not James Harden's style. James Harden is a finesse player. He takes advantage of the rules in the regular season where we all know teams do not play you the same way they'll play you in the playoffs. So you're getting away with a lot more and a less attack on the defensive end than you are in the playoffs. He's entering the playoffs. The numbers, the percentages go down, and he's turning the ball over at even more rate than he is in the regular season because I believe he's led the league or been in top 5 in turnovers basically every single year of his career.
I never think that's fair to hold against a player.
I'll give you that point. I'll give you that point. 9 turnovers is no excuse though, but I can give you that point.
Agreed.
Again, which going throughout the playoff, each time he would come up short injured. And this is coming from a guy when he first got traded to Houston. I was a big fan. I was a huge fan of James Harden and Dwight Howard. And then year after year after year after year after year, etc., he failed, and he kept failing. Him, okay? You talk about they were outgunned and outmatched. Okay, I give you that for a whole series, right? But in that 2017 playoff run, 2 games left. You got a 3-2 lead over them. Chris Paul's gone. You're the leader. John says it's his team. He's the Rockets. The Rockets go as James Harden goes. You got 2 games. You only need one. Game 6 is in the Oracle. Game 7's back home in Houston. Okay? Just need one. Anything can happen in one game. You guys agree with that? Anything can happen. A series, I give you. One game, anything can happen. You could slip on a banana peel.
Mm-hmm.
All you need is one. He didn't even get you one. Lost in game 6, what a lot of people expected. Went to game 7 and failed. And the whole team failed because, as John said, the Rockets go as James Harden goes. So James Harden had one of the worst performances ever. And the Rockets as a team had one of the worst performances ever.
Can I say something, my man?
Go ahead.
We got to still hear your top 10.
Yeah, I understand. We'll cap that off. I want you to realize we're not just looking at the talent James Harden. He led the NBA minutes in 2015. He led the NBA minutes in 2016. He then nearly led the NBA minutes again in 2017 without a co-star. And you talked about, hey, look, the Rockets only go like James Harden goes, which is understandable because those heliocentric offenses revolved around Harden. If he's missing shots, if he's shooting 41% and just 32% from 3, we got an issue when those 5 turnovers are coming around too. But look, man, while the NBA may officiate differently in the playoffs, you can't deny the fact that him leading the NBA minutes nearly for 3 straight seasons, for any NBA player, they're going to get injured. He didn't get injured. He played through unimaginable wear and tear in the postseason, and that was a large reason why he struggled. Dude, when you're constantly handling the ball and you're doing everything on your own, the way Luka Doncic does now, he's still missing 17 to 10 games a season. Harden literally was the NBA's Iron Man that again and again and again led the NBA with 82, 81, 80 games played. And you said that he failed again and again. I recognize that he did. He was bad in elimination games. He struggled. He had good moments in scrappy teams like the Timberwolves. And when it was time to show up, he failed multiple times. But you had to see things from the other side. You can't just zoom in at that, because when you take a closer look, you realize Chris Paul failed him. How realistic is it to expect a guy that just nearly led the NBA minutes for 3 straight years to beat 4 All-Stars on his own when all of his teammates are not helping him by supporting with shot support?
One game. I didn't say a series. I said one game, and we all agree that anything can happen in one game.
We all agree this is the greatest team of all time he's up against, right?
Yeah. AI got you one against the Lakers, didn't he?
Well,
James Harden.
Do you recognize the difference between Game 1 of an NBA Finals, where you're playing each other for the first time, and Game 6 and Game 7, when you're playing against 2 of the 3 best players in the NBA,
I'm not going to discredit
and 2 more
that. I'm not going to discredit that.
There's levels here.
No, I understand that. I'm not gonna discredit that. I was just talking about the one game instance. It's one game.
I understand where you're coming
from. And again, the moment got bigger, so you're even making my point even more. The moment got bigger, and he shrunk.
But
I want to make a point on the things that you said first, right? You talk about minutes, you talk about games played, and you talk about his style of play. Well, I got the things in front of me right now, so I'll leave out Klay's rookie year. He played 66 games, but he started 29 of them.
You can't compare the two.
Second year in 82 of 82 games. Third year 81 of 81. 77 of 77, 80 of 80, 78 of 78, 73 of 73, 78 of 78, and then 32 of 32 this last season. Minutes 36, 35, 32, 33, 34, 34, 34 a game. Now you want to talk about style of play, right? Of he's got the ball in his hands and he's doing all that. He's dancing, right? Klay Thompson moves off the ball. I would argue I would love to see a stat of James Harden, how much he's putting out, and what Klay Thompson and like a Steph Curry are putting out when they're off ball movement and they're moving all the time, trying to run through that traffic and get hit, chipped, hip checked, shouldered, whatever, just running around the court on the offensive end. And then you talk about, and then I want to flip it to the other side, defense, right? Because this is basketball, right? We agree that there's 50% offense, 50% defense. And we're going to just like you said to me, I'm discrediting certain things. Well, I think you're not looking at the whole picture with the James Harden too. Who's ever thought James Harden's a great defender? Because he's not. He's a poor defender.
Mostly
Klay Thompson's a great defender.
Mm.
He is.
Very good one. He was never truly.
All right, you want to go great.
He made it very good.
Okay. We're splitting hairs there. All right, fine. So also, doesn't defense take a lot of energy out of your game too? Especially what his style of play, he's moving around off the ball all like this. I mean, you tell me. James Harden's not playing defense, he's resting on defense.
Yeah,
and when James doesn't have the ball in his hand, what is he doing? He's usually standing in the corner getting his rest. Go ahead.
There are more layers to this, and you touched on a very good point that I didn't mention, is defense. That's important that we do note that. But there's level of pressure and the way you are guarded, which gets tiring. Yes, Klay was also highly available. I mean, he didn't miss a single game to his third season. And overall, until his injuries these past 2 years, never played less than 73 games outside of his rookie year, which was shortened by the lockout. I get that. But like I just said, there's ways that you get guarded. They are the same age. They're both 32 years old. But when you're constantly stopping and going, bobbing and weaving through traffic, you're getting double teamed, you're making split-second decisions, and you're making not only all of the physical moves, but you're making all of the decisions to your offense. Everything goes through you, and you're doing that throughout an entire season. There are no nights where you can just go 5-17 and just I'll keep shooting my way through it. And you said before, you asked me a question. This is what I was going to ask you. When a shooter's not shooting well, what do they do, Brandon?
They shoot through it.
That Rocket team had to shoot through it because that's what their identity was built upon.
Yeah. Layups, free throws, and 3-point shots. That's the D'Antoni system.
And look,
and a lot of people, I will tiny pass, but I will give them that the D'Antoni system, I think, has been proven to not be indicative of winning a championship. It'll win you games in the regular season. It'll get you to like the second round, maybe the third round, but it's not going to get you a championship.
Ultimately, it'll let you down.
Yep.
And I love D'Antoni, but there was a reason why people called him Mike D'Antoni, which does kind of hurt.
Yeah.
Forgot the D.
But, no, let's do it. Let's figure. I want to hear the rest of this top 10.
Can I ask you guys one question before I do that, though?
Go
What
ahead.
is more impressive? The Rockets taking the 2018 Golden State Warriors to 7 games, or James Harden and co going 0 of 27 consecutively from 3-point range? What is more
impressive?
When I say impressive, what is more
Shocking?
meaningful? What is more meaningful? Taking the best team of all time in the 7 games when Chris Paul went down in Game 5?
He went down in game 5, but I think it was later in the game.
Impressive wasn't the right word.
Yeah.
But what is more meaningful? What is more telling? What is more revealing about James Harden's
Game 7
team?
for me. Game 7.
Okay.
Especially when
I
I hear Draymond,
again?
especially when I hear Draymond laugh at the question of Houston being a problem to them. I mean, that's just like he knows something we don't.
That's what a competitor does, though.
But he was given.
Brandon,
if Houston is on that night, series is over. Houston's going to the championship.
No, but
and they're winning the championship.
He wasn't doing it that way. He was giving props to other teams. He was getting asked about what team is a problem now, and then another team, another person, and he was giving his props and all that. But he said about Houston, there was no chance that Houston.
There's levels to this. He's gonna play nice with a team like Memphis because they aren't a real threat, and he knows that. The team that
he didn't play nice. He didn't.
Let me ask. Okay.
Memphis,
so all those teams, I don't care. This is what matters. In 2017, the Warriors lost 1 playoff game, 16-1 in the playoffs. In 2018, they went 16-5 in the playoffs. So in 2 years, 2017 and 2018, the Warriors won the championship both times, and they only lost 6 games. Half was one series against James Harden. He played against LeBron James. He played against Kyrie Irving. He played against Kawhi for half a quarter. He played against Anthony Davis, or they played against Anthony Davis. Half of those for James Harden. He was the real threat. It wasn't those other teams. Draymond can say what he wants. Draymond's fooling people like you who are going to take that seriously. He's literally just talking. He's just talking. He doesn't actually mean that. He knew.
He's not fooling me. I had this opinion before. Draymond just said this like a month ago. I've had this opinion about James Harden for years.
Draymond is going to say that because people are going to listen to what he says.
All right, that's fine. And I see your point there. That's a solid point. For me, it's just fine. Ignore that point. Who gives a crap what Draymond said then? For me, the numbers don't lie here, and the footage doesn't lie about what James Harden did, because it's just didn't win. Didn't. At the end of the day, he didn't get the job done.
At the end of the day, Chris Paul screwed him.
If you're going to give me the excuse about he's tired and stuff and whatever, listen, if we're going to call him one of the greatest scorers of all time, if not the greatest scorer of all time, who I've heard people call him that, then you don't get a pass like that. Show up. Especially when you don't play defense, which is 50% of your job. Show up.
Where was the support, Brandon? That's what I ask you.
Where was the support?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, fine. You really want? All right, let's get back in. All right, fine. First off, it was Dwight Howard. Everybody loved the world. They looked like they were going to be serious contenders. I'm talking right when they started, not when it started.
Did Dwight Howard fit what they were trying to do?
I don't care. I'm talking before the season started, when the moves happened. Everybody was hyped up for it. Yes, we saw how it play out. That we're being a Monday morning quarterback there. Then it happened and it played out and it didn't work. He didn't want to play with Dwight Howard anymore. He got his ass shipped out. Wanted Chris Paul. Chris Paul came in. Chris Paul changed the identity just like Chris Paul changed the identity in OKC when he got there and Phoenix. But fine, we don't got to talk about that. Then after 2 years, him and CP started having a little trouble, and he wanted Chris Paul out. So they got rid of Chris Paul. They brought in Westbrook, one of his boys from OKC. That lasted all but 1 freaking year in failure. Okay, then he wants Westbrook shipped out. He's blaming another co-star. Westbrook gets shipped out. Then he bullies his way out of Houston by showing up out of shape, lethargic, and not ready to work. Goes to Brooklyn. Is hyped to be in Brooklyn. Says, we here. We got it. We're going to win. We're one of the most skilled teams in the NBA history. That lasted all but what? A year and a half before he got tired again of
He got
Kyrie.
tired? Or did he suffer a grade 2 hamstring injury in the first 30 seconds?
No, John. I didn't say he got tired. I'm saying he got tired of Kyrie's bull jive.
No, but what? We got zoom a little bit back. Literally the first possession to that Bucks series, grade 2 hamstring sprain. That series versus the Boston Celtics, he was killing it. But the following series, he gets hurt immediately. And that's the only reason the Nets didn't beat the Bucks. And I'm not trying to throw hypotheticals at you, but look, after all those years of leading the NBA minutes, he went down, as you would expect with the Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant can't even lead the NBA minutes for 1 year without getting hurt. Harden did it for almost 4 years. And when he finally gets hurt, we just chalk it up to he didn't get along with Kyrie. That's not
no,
the truth.
No, I'm not saying that. No, I'm talking about the end, John. I'm talking about the end of it.
But we have to understand
why did he leave? Why did he? What was the main reason he left Brooklyn?
But why did it fail? Because Harden went down. If Harden stays healthy, they beat the Bucks.
That's why it failed. I said why he left Brooklyn. Why did he leave Brooklyn? Because he was tired of Kyrie's bull.
But if they won a championship, he's not going to be tired of Kyrie. He's just not.
You can say that. But okay, it didn't happen, and what happened, and he got his way out of Brooklyn after wanting to go to Brooklyn, got to Philly, now he's in Philly, and he's gonna do that. He's James Harden, like you said, John. Eventually, a person's gonna show you who he really is. He showed you who he is.
He showed me, he led the NBA almost for 4 straight seasons in minutes, and when he got hurt, we're gonna chalk it up to him and Kyrie don't like each other. It's how it failed. He was down with Kyrie.
Not what I said. What happened in those 8 years before that then? Forget Brooklyn. Throw Brooklyn out the door. What happened in Houston?
Let's do this.
In Houston? What did he do?
What did he do in Houston? So he starts off with Dwight Howard, who, when you have Daryl Morey as your executive, is probably not the proper fit when he's just trying to post up and get his. And it's also not prime Dwight Howard. Let's keep that in mind. This is not the dude that is leading Orlando to the finals. This is a Dwight Howard who's entitled, wants to be the star, but at the age of 28 years old, he's already out of his prime, barely an all-star. So in 2014, not the thing. Their first year together, they lose in the first round of Portland. Damian Lillard says, okay. 2015, they lose the Golden State Warriors. They won the championship that year, but they still made it to the conference finals with Dwight Howard, losing 5 games to Warriors team that won 67 games. 2016, lost to a Golden State team again in the first round that went, 73-9. The Rockets that year went 41-41. Why? The team around him was pretty trash. He had Trevor Ariza, Good Wayne, Pat Beverly. After that, it was Dwight Howard and Ty Lawson. Not a good basketball team at all. We can say how it is. 2016. What happens? Golden State Warriors. 2017, what happens? Spurs. That was embarrassing. That was bad. I can't deny that. But like I was saying before, I gave you reasons as to why he failed. 2018, the series we talked about. He's up 3-2 in the Warriors. And when Chris Paul goes down, he and his boys crumble. They can't do it. Can't win one game. 2019, it was over at that point. He was already over Houston. He was like, I can't get over the hump of this damn Golden State Warriors team. What happens to lose them again, this time in 6 games. That's what happened in Houston. 2020, Russell Westbrook a year. They didn't have any time to jail because Russell got COVID and all these different injuries, and it was over.
Well, every Chris Paul and Russell Westbrook were people he wanted. He picked them. Houston literally gave this guy everything and then some.
But
And
is
then
Kevin
eventually he
Durant
just
is
said, "I
Kevin
want out."
Durant not a top 4 small forward of all time because of the career decisions he made that had implications on his franchise? No, we're removing Kevin Durant, the GM, from Kevin Durant, the player, right? I
No, but
am.
I'm just saying you want these guys, and then you just say,
But how does that affect where Harden ranks among the best shooting guards of all time?
I'm not, but we're getting into what happened over those years is what I'm saying. I'm explaining to you what happened. He chose that he wanted it, then he decides he doesn't want it anymore because he thinks it's their fault.
Listen, to end this, Klay Thompson is one of the greatest champions of all time. James Harden is one of the greatest talents at the shooting guard position of all time. That is it.
Let me ask Fran this. If you put Klay Thompson on those Rockets teams, are they making the playoffs?
I don't know because I'll say this again, like I said last time when you asked me another question about Klay Thompson. I don't know, John, because I distinctly remember I said Reggie Miller led an Indiana Pacers team to the NBA Finals, and they are similar type players.
Okay.
And he's a better defender than Reggie Miller.
Yeah, he's also the number 1 on his team.
Klay Thompson might not show you that he's got nasty handles, which I'm not
Because
saying
he doesn't
does.
have
No,
handles.
he doesn't.
He has
Okay, but
none.
he's got. I would imagine he's got serviceable handles.
He does. His biggest concern coming to the draft and why he wasn't a top 5 pick is because this dude can't dribble. He needs to go to a team where he doesn't have to.
Okay, that's fine. I would say he's got serviceable handles. Serviceable is not like a plus. It's like a C at best. Okay, that's not saying he's like great. It's just serviceable. Playmaking. I could imagine Klay Thompson can play make. He plays in a system that is literally all about playmaking, ball movement. Yes, it's not going to be like a LeBron James or a Steph Curry type, fancy and stuff. Like I've said about Klay Thompson, he's not going to do the fancy stuff. So he's not going to get that much notice, but he gets the job done. And if you want to say he wouldn't, then that's fine by you because we're playing hypotheticals here. I'm going to say I have the belief in Klay Thompson is a special player and he would have been able to get the job done. Not saying they would have beaten great teams, but they would have made the playoffs. Yes, they would have made the playoffs.
So I said before, history is told by the victor. I think that's especially pertinent with my number 6 player. Yeah, I come back to my list. So my top 5, Jordan 1. Number 2, let me think. Kobe Bryant. Number 3, Dwyane Wade. Number 3, Dwyane Wade. Number 4, Allen Iverson. Number 5, James Harden. Number 6, do you guys know who I'm going to have?
I think you've been hinting at it, Dumars.
Oh, I have been hinting at Dumars, but no, it's not. It's Clyde Drexler. He was so underrated for his time. Sure, he was an All-NBA player. I think many people forget he went to the finals twice went to the finals once with Houston, was an NBA champion, a great number 2, and as number 1 in Portland, he was leading the team to the finals twice. They were making the conference finals with him consistently. I mean, George Gervin, or not George Gervin, I just hinted my number 7. Clyde Drexler is one of the most underappreciated players of all time just because he played in the same era as Michael Jordan. If he got to play against the Knicks or the Pacers in the NBA Finals instead, while he was in Portland, I think we'd be looking at Clyde Drexler as a number 1 on a championship team that then won one with Hakeem Olajuwon. And if that's the case, he's above James Harden, and he might even be above Allen Iverson if we're going to remove the influence on the game completely. That's what makes Clyde Drexler to me number 6. Number 7, George Gervin. Look, he played in an era where competition wasn't great, but a 4-time scoring champion, made the All-NBA 7 times, All-ABA 2 times. In his prime, he was giving me 36 and 3 on pretty good shooting. Number 8. Now, this is a player who actually made a difference in the playoffs. His name is Reggie Miller. But look at Donovan Mitchell today, a guy who's not a superstar in the regular season, but in the postseason will just take his game to another level. Brand, you hit the nail on the head before when you were talking about him. This guy stepped up. He tortured Knicks fans in the 95 finals. He robbed New York of so many awesome opportunities. He's one of the most efficient players of all time, 13th in true shooting, made the 50-40-90 club in 94, and he's led teams to the finals. I think that in of itself, being the only other legitimate high-level supporters, Rick Smits and Mark Jackson, that earns him a spot in the top 10 as one of the 4 greatest shooters ever. Number 9, they call him Jesus Shuttleworth. Ray Allen is only remembered for the shooter that he was. And like I said before, there is no shot like the one where he catches it with Tony Parker underneath his legs. Nice turn, elevates. You know the thing's going in. He does the dip and everything, hits the shot, and gives you the look walking down. It is the coolest play I've ever seen in my entire life. That saved LeBron's legacy, and he won 2 titles, not as number 1, but as a supporting player. And he showed as number 1 he could lead a team to the conference finals. He was truly a top 15 player in Seattle, in Milwaukee. He was, in time, littered with shooting guards, one of the very best. He had longevity. He could lead a team. I think he's more than deserving with the influence he had as a shooter to be in the top 10. The number 10, this one could have went with Joe Dumars, who's an honorable mention. Klay Thompson is my other honorable mention. The reason why I have Joe Dumars at 11 instead of Thompson is that he's a finals MVP. Joe Dumars has also made 3 All-NBA teams, 1 more than Thompson, and 5 all-defensive teams, 4 more than Thompson. He averaged 20 points per game, 5 assists, better playmaker, 6-time All-Star. It's hard for me to put Thompson ahead of him. But at 10, we have Manu Ginobili. Brandon, you hit the nail on the head talking about his run with Argentina being the USA. He didn't even play on the Spurs then. He didn't come to the NBA until he was 25 years old. And he comes off the bench for a San Antonio team for the better of it. He was never a high minutes guy. Pop wasn't playing him high, big time minutes, but he would close to them. He was I'm going to say, I always felt like to me he was, how do I word, the antithesis to the 6-man award. It was innovated with Frank Ramsey and the Boston Celtics. But when I think of what a 6-man is, I'm not thinking of Jamal Crawford. I'm not thinking of Lou Williams. I'm thinking of Manu Ginobili. Because he could have started on 25, 26, basically every NBA team that didn't have Kobe Bryant or prime Ray Allen. And Ray Allen was out of his prime by then. And Dwyane Wade. But he came off the bench of those Spurs teams. And even still, 17 points per game and 4 assists. He was clutch when he needed it, and a 4-time NBA champion while making 2 All-NBA teams. I really do think if Manu played a different organization, he could have racked up 7 or 8 All-Star teams. That's how special a player he was. And even still, after coming to the NBA at 25, he had the longevity. That, to me, is one of the most underrated All-NBA performers of all time. My honorable
John,
mentions are Dumars, Thompson, T-Mac, and Vince Carter.
John, but I just want a little bit of a pushback, right? The love for Manu, right? You could argue like Manu and Klay, like, I mean, what? So, all right, here, let me simple it down. Let me dumb it down for. What does Klay Thompson have to do to enter the top 10 then? Because he's got the championships.
I don't think it's a matter of accolades because I've seen him accomplish so much. I think it's more so an ability and showing that you can be a go-to offensive creator, that you can be more than just a 3-and-D
So he's
guy
got
off of
to. You're
Steph
saying
Curry.
he has to leave Golden State and lead a team.
No, because Bonnie wasn't quite leading a team, but Ginobili had the complete all-around package on offense. He could do more, and he was capable of more than Klay. And I feel like when I'm looking at the best shooting guards of all time, I want a guy who can do more and get me a bucket off the dribble, can create for a teammate, can flow within the offense as well, just like Klay off the ball, moves it perfectly. He's a much better playmaker. He still defends at a very good level. He's
I-
So you don't.
perfect.
So you're basically saying Klay will never be a top 10 shooting guard.
If he wins 2 NBA championships and can scratch in 2 more All-Star teams, it's tough to go against won 6 titles as a starter. But I don't think that's happening.
I'm kind of with John on that. When you look at the list of everybody else that we named outside of Klay Thompson, those are guys that not only can take over a game just by shooting, but also that on all phases of the game, on offense and defense, they can take over. And so Clay's a shooter. You know, he'll stand behind the 3-point line and he'll rack up his points that way. And that's not a knock on him. That's his style. And you know what? He's perfected it. So it's not a knock on him. I have him at 11.
The only thing that bothered me was having Joe Dumars at 11 because I feel like Dumars should be ahead of George Gervin. But the issue I have is that Dumars was never number one, even though he won a Finals MVP. And that's why I have Dumars ahead of Klay, no problem. The fact that he has that award, that is the most impressive award in basketball. You were the best player on a Finals winning team. But I just couldn't go quite that far with Joe. Though to me, he was so underrated. I mean, Dumars is one of the most underappreciated players in Detroit. I don't know if you guys disagree with that. My issue is saying, do I really have Gervin above him? But Gervin just had the production. And like Justin said, when you can do more and you can take it off the dribble and change the game that way, I do value that more than a guy who's kind of, I'm not going to call Klay a one-trick pony because he's not. He can do it with and without the ball. But you're more dynamic, you're more diverse in your arsenal.
Would you guys discredit? Do you guys discredit the fact because he's basically a Robin
In a way.
in a way? You too, Justin.
I guess so. I mean, he wasn't even a Robin for his whole career. He became something less. No offense, when Kevin Durant got there.
I guess you could say that.
Oh, that's the other all-star over there.
But so what I was getting at is as a Robin, right? Because I mean, Scottie Pippen was a Robin, but he's a top 50 NBA player of all time to a lot of people. Dwyane Wade was a Robin towards the later end of his career. He's a top 20 player in my opinion. I mean, you can look at there's been Kobe was a Robin, his first 3 championships, and then obviously I'm not gonna. They've obviously become but Dwyane Wade before he became a Robin, he was actually a Batman, and Kobe became Batman after. It's all different. I don't see Klay ever leaving Golden State. He's Golden State for life, in my opinion. Um, it's going to be interesting how the rest of his career plays out because I mean I don't know if Golden State is done winning championships. They've definitely set themselves up for the future with their young talent. Um, so if these guys go out there and win, like, I mean, I don't freaking know. I don't think like 6 or 7 is out of the picture. Winning 3 more or whatever, it could happen. Uh, Especially because Klay's style is so a longevity style. I mean, he could do this late into his 30s, barring injury. I don't.
Shoot threes at a high level into his late 30s.
Yeah, and he can play defense. I mean, we saw this year when he came back. At first, he was struggling with everything. Obviously, 2 years off, coming off a torn ACL, a torn Achilles. It's going to take you a year, maybe even a year and a half to get really back. But towards the later end of the season, the shooting still wasn't what it was before because it's going to take a while for that. But his defensive level was starting to. I'm not going to say be at the level it once was, but it was as close as it's going to be at that point in the season. And he was showing up defensively. I mean, he was guarding very well, especially in the postseason. So I just expect this season Klay Thompson is going to return to form. It may take until January to really, because you got to understand he's still working, getting used to this again. But once he gets it going, boy, look out. Or as Mark Jackson says, Mama, there goes that man.
Do you guys have anything for Check It Up today?
I mean, I'll say one little thing. It's currently 12:30 in the morning. It's a Thursday now, but yesterday, Wednesday, Serena Williams announced her retirement from tennis. I don't really watch tennis. The past couple of years, I've been able to watch some women's tennis, especially only when Serena's playing, obviously, because I've told you guys this before. I respect greatness to the highest level, and she's the goat of that sport. So happy retirement, goat, and enjoy it.
Greatest female athlete of all time.
I would have to agree with that. I'm not
Yeah.
really familiar with
And
soccer.
you know what? I don't even want to say that. greatest female athlete, but easily one of the greatest all-time athletes.
Yeah, I mean, she was the best at her sport.
And one of the most inspiring.
No,
Yeah,
You know, I'm not
I
a
mean,
big.
what's that story about her? She won Wimbledon or something like 5 or 8 months after she was pregnant. That's freaking insane, dude. I
insane,
mean, what a warrior.
insane.
I'm trying to look this up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it
a
was
Wonder Woman
10 months
female.
after childbirth. That is remarkable. And yeah, shout out to Serena. Now, I have one for NBA. Collin Sexton 2 years ago, look, he was playing a crappy Cleveland team. I think NBA fans don't appreciate the fact this was a 24 point per game score on high level efficiency. And you don't see that often with a third year guard that's also really fun to watch and funny. You know, he has the summer league moment where he's flexing on defense. He has the stare down at the foul line in high school. There's one more logjam than there that I'm forgetting somewhere in my mind. Collin Sexton is awesome. And just because he tore his meniscus last year and the Cavaliers will only offer him 3 years, $40 million, no team wants him right now. And he's by far the best free agent in the market. He's just 24 years old. He's entering his prime, even though he's coming off a serious knee injury. And look, this guy is so much better than Karis LeVert and the Cavaliers. He is much better than the former Sixth Man of the Year in Jordan Clarkson, who is another former Cavalier. And quite honestly, I don't think it's really close. Collin Sexton is a really good shooter that last season playing off Darius Garland was showing it's
Progress.
12:30. I can't speak. Progress as an off-ball player. And look, he's not going to give you much defense. He can't pass the ball, and he's 6'1". But think about all the teams: Dallas, Phoenix, the Clippers need it. The Lakers would kill for a guy that gave you 20 off their bench. It's Malik Monk, but he's a better version of him who stayed healthy up until this point. Half the teams in the league could utilize Collin Sexton's skill set off their bench. And I'm telling you, he's going to win multiple Sixth Man of the Year awards. And he's looking for 20 million that no one wants to give him. And we're in this game of cat and mouse. And I'm saying to myself, can someone just damn sign this man? Like, can we just get him what he wants? Give him his $16 to $20 million a year. I want to get more than that. But golly, it's like Carmelo Anthony and Montrezl Harrell. Those guys are not good. And Collin Sexton, someone sign this man. It drives me crazy. I want to ask, do you guys think Collin Sexton is a future Sixth Man of the Year winner, a bucket off a team's bench?
Definitely can be.
Yeah. Sorry, not much to elaborate, but yeah, I mean, yeah.
Because I think he's winning more than one. I wouldn't be surprised if he ties Lou Williams and Jamal Crawford with 3 of those things. And that's why it blows my mind that, in late August, there's no deal close to being done. We may get near training camp until someone signs this man. I don't know if the Cavaliers will be lucky enough to get him back on the qualifying offer, but whatever it may be, people are going to realize next season Collin Sexton is a real hooper. It's like, sign him. Come on, let's get him back. And I mean, he's a former lottery pick for a reason. He's one of the 3 or 4 best scorers in this draft.
Yeah.
You got anything, Justin?
I got nothing today. Hopefully, I have some MLB news for you guys next week if the Yankees stop sucking it up. So,
Yeah. Well, I can't speak at this point in the night we're at. Yeah, like I said before, it's past midnight. Thank you guys so much for sticking around for episode number 16 of the Wise Guys podcast. Today was a fun one, a longer one. But as always, I'm John with BCAP and JRey. And as always, we'll see you next time.
stay classy.